Our old buddy Dean Obeidallah, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show right here on Sirius XM Progress Channel 127, weekdays 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 to 6 p.m. Pacific. He's also a columnist with CNN, a contributor to the New Republic, and most importantly, Dean publishes regularly a free newsletter that if you have not subscribed to, you need to get over to Substack.com and just plug in Dean's Report, The Dean's Report, DEAN''S. It's Dean's newsletter. The DeanObeidallah.substack.com is the URL. But if you don't know how to spell his name, just plug it into, just go to Substack and you just plug it right in there. Dean, welcome back to the program. I loved the piece that you wrote about how the Republican Party wants to impose on us far more than just the Ten Commandments.
Absolutely. Obviously, Tom, I'm happy to be on. I'm glad you're feeling better and your team is feeling better. I know that I read your newsletter when you were on the way from COVID, so I'm glad you bounced back here. So to me, look, I think people know this now. Louisiana, the governor there, Jeff Landry, signed yesterday a law mandating that the Ten Commandments be posted in every school that gets public funding from kindergarten to college. And for fun, I went back and watched the trailer from the movie, The Ten Commandments, from 1956, with Charlton Heston. And all I can say is, let my people go. Let us go from this. Tom, what we're faced with is a right-wing religious supremacist movement, and you can call it religious fascism, where they want to turn their religious beliefs and make it into the law of the land. So if their only goal was with the Ten Commandments up on the schools, that would be unconstitutional, but we could perhaps live with it if we had to. This is just a little bit. I mean, they've been emboldened since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the GOP Supreme Court in 2022, and it's gone on from there. And as I wrote about my article, because people might be like, wasn't there a Supreme Court decision on the idea of putting Ten Commandments in public schools? Yes, you're right. In 1980, Stone versus Graham, Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional. The problem is, Tom, that case, Stone versus Graham, relied on another case, Lemon versus Kurtzman, this famous Kurtzman three-prong test on the Establishment Clause. Well, after 50 years, this Supreme Court, 2022, overturned Lemon versus Kurtzman, meaning now it is easier for Republicans to establish their religion as law. And the whole idea is the First Amendment, the first clause is Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of any religion. Simply means government should not show favor through government policy to one religion over another. And that's what this is doing. So, Tom, this is just part and parcel of a movement to usher in and to turn America into a Christian version of Saudi Arabia, to be honest. And I say Christian in air quotes because it's not about the faith of Christianity. It's about controlling everyone consistent with their right-wing, bastardized view of a beautiful faith.
Yeah, let's be very clear about this. This and the destroying unions and putting working people under the thumb of right-wing billionaires and depriving women of the right to an abortion and ultimately even to birth control. You've got a senator. I didn't realize this, but somebody called from Alabama and said that Senator Katie Britt has got this video about how women don't need to go to college. I mean, all of that is one. It's all one fabric, and I think that. You're saying they want to turn America into Saudi Arabia. To some Americans might sound really weird or inflammatory, but I think the parallels, and this is more than just the camel's nose under the tent. The parallels are striking. And this activist court has just undone so much of the Warren Court's good work during the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah, and to the point, Lemon versus Kurtzman was a Burger. He actually, Warren Burger wrote the decision. It was a unanimous decision. And the whole idea was to prevent, especially in schools where they're very protective, of somehow saying to students there, this is the religion of the United States of America. And if you're not down with that, then you're going to feel uncomfortable in school. You might feel coerced to follow that faith. We don't want that in the United States of America. And the irony, Tom, is that people on the right for years have said that Muslims, my people, wanted to impose Sharia law, wanted to turn our religion into law. And I wrote articles for the Daily Beast 10 years ago going, no, I interviewed Muslims all over the country. Nobody wants that. What they were doing is projecting. The right-wing evangelical Christians want their religion to be the law of the land, even if it means any democracy. And I think people have to understand that. Religious fundamentalists, democracy is a speed bump on the way to their dreams. And we must be aware of It is an anti-democratic movement, the evangelical right-wing movement in America. So, Tom, they will jettison democracy to impose their religious beliefs. And look what they've done now. The Dobbs decision in 2022, the result is 14 states ban abortion at day one of conception, even most times in the case of rape. They are forcing women against their will to carry a fetus to term because that's what their religion says should be the law. And that is religious barbarism. They are killing women. They don't, my article studies. They are literally killing women, and these Republicans are fine with it. And if you will force a woman to carry a fetus to term against her will, especially if she's been raped and it's the rapist fetus, you are capable of, there's no bottom to the level of barbarity and vile evilness that you will inflict on people. And that's what people have to wake up to. It is a movement. It's not anti-abortion, Tom. It's not just that. It's everything you laid out, banning birth control, and then the perfect, horrific storm of the wealthy and the oligarchs who want to get rid of unions and strike down minimum wage laws, make it harder to tax the wealthy. This perfect storm, and it's right in front of us now, again in 2024.
Yeah, and an awful lot of it's going to be decided by this election, including possibly the fate of the Supreme Court. If we can get a solid majority in the Senate, we might be able to get some ethics reform at the very least. I'd love to see the court expanded. But, I think you're absolutely right. And Americans just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to get the stakes here. I think increasingly women are starting to figure it out, or at least younger women. But it just astonishes me that Trump and the Republican Party have the popularity levels that they do. How do you explain that? And by the way, who do you think Trump is going to pick for VP? I'm betting J.D. Vance.
I think Trump picks a white guy. I mean, whatever name you want to give that to. J.D. Vance, Doug Burgum is boring, the governor who's rich. I think that Trump might like him. I think J.D. Vance is too ambitious. He's like in his late 30s and has a track record of calling Trump even Hitler in 2016, which is going to come up all over the place. Look what Trump's own vice president said about him, and they're going to run those in ads. He literally said he'll be like Hitler back in 2015, J.D. Vance. He just got confronted with it recently. I think that's a little problematic.
Interesting.
But look, I think our fellow Americans, some get it. Some think we are being overheated, Tom. They think we're being hyperbolic. And maybe you're more reasoned. Perhaps in the past I've been hyperbolic, and I wish I wasn't. So when I say stuff now like our democratic republic's on the line, our freedom's on the line, they don't think I'm just being over the top. Because honestly, I never called George W. Bush a fascist. I've called Donald Trump a fascist because it fulfills the definition, and MAGA is a fascist movement. I mean, they embrace violence. So this is a very unique time for us. Getting back to the Supreme Court, Tom, I think Biden should make Supreme Court reform. You can call it just that, a package of ethics and term limits on the Supreme Court, which polls like it's 70% of Americans. Make it a big part of the campaign. I think that will energize people, especially those on the base who are not really that excited for whatever reason.
FDR did that in 36.
Well, but
he ran against the Supreme Court.
He did, and I think Biden hinted to it last weekend at the big fundraiser with George Clooney, saying it's out of step and there's something wrong here. There is. Today's Supreme Court is no longer a court, Tom, as we know it. It's simply an arm of the GOP. It might as well be the Republican National Committee because every decision is where Republicans line up. You don't need a law degree to predict where this court's going. Just look, what is the GOP position? That's what they'll deliver. And what they're doing with Donald Trump in delaying the appeal of the immunity case is that they're just protecting the leader of their party. That's all this is. It is that so base. And sometimes people think, oh, the court's not like that. Maybe in the past they weren't. They are now. And Judge Aileen Cannon, if Trump wins, the entire judiciary looks like Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida, who might as well sit at the table with Trump's lawyers next to him. And it'll look like, Alito and Thomas. And you have, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, a little bit smarter versions. At the end of the day, and Barrett, they're all Republicans. They're going to deliver for Republican power every time.
Yeah. You saw the decision that came down today. There were two dissenting. It basically said that the provision in the Trump tax cuts that allowed a one-time tax on money that billionaires had stashed overseas was legal. But what I thought was interesting, and in fact in the decision, Kavanaugh wrote that had we struck this down, it would have opened the door to striking down, massive parts of the Internal Revenue Code. And Gorsuch and Thomas dissented. What do you think of that?
I think they have their own agenda, right? I mean, Thomas, obviously, Harlan Crow, no more vacations if you can raise his taxes more. Imagine if Thomas was able to get rid of the taxes, no more tax on the wealthy. Then Thomas would have a personal jet. He'd have a jet pack. He'd have anything he wants. Are you kidding me? What to deliver that?
Yeah.
Gorsuch, his flawed legal reasoning to achieve a goal that he wants. I mean, look, it's kind of interesting that they went 7-2 on that one, and they opened the door for a wealth tax by calling it an excise tax in the future. And perhaps we get to that at that point in the future. We need that. At some point, we need it.
Yeah, it seems. It really seems. Dean, as an attorney, how would you, we have just about 50 seconds here. I'm curious your thoughts on the state of the American legal system and what average people can do to help make it more resilient to these Republican attacks.
I think we have to win the election in 2024 so that Biden and the Democrats can keep appointing Democratic or at least real judges. Because if Biden wins, but we lose the Senate, I can guarantee they will not confirm any judicial nomination, especially Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. J.D. Vance, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, they'll block everything. Republicans have control. We will not be able to confirm any more judges. So we have to win and we have to hold on to the Senate. Tough to do, but we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and ideally, expand the Supreme Court.
Yes, very much so. We need that. We'll live like this for the rest of our lives. We can't have a right-wing GOP Supreme Court delivering political decisions consistent with the GOP platform and masquerading as legal decisions. It's not legal decisions anymore. Everyone knows this now. It's ridiculous. There's no confidence. There's no more check on the president.
3 stolen seats. Yeah. Ray, thank you very much. Excuse me. Yeah, Dean, thank you very much. It's always great talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Dean Obeidallah, you'll hear him on SiriusXM, channel 127, 6 p.m. Eastern every night.